For people who are not married and they get stuck on not dating people because of like their height or some
Their
type
income.
of like their income, some type of physical appearance, I'll be like, girl, please. Talk to me about how are you as a dad? How do you respect women?
Oof.
How do you, are you a kind person? Like, what do you believe? Welcome back to another episode of Wealth Within Reach, and I am excited to have today the woman that is usually behind the camera, unless she's with her own podcast, but the woman who is responsible for putting this whole situation together, Jessica Hurley.
Thank you.
So happy to have you here. So happy. I'm happy to continue on this conversation that we've been having behind the scenes in front of the camera. This is such an important conversation. There are not many podcasts talking about it at all. I mean, I literally have there have been times where I've like searched Breadwinner just to find something, like some type of guidance, how to navigate this world in this way. So I'm really excited to talk today about this important topic.
I love that you're so bold about it.
Yes.
You know what I think is, one, this is why I do what I do.
Okay.
Is because I get to work with people like you that are willing to have the hard conversations, the impactful, the transparent, the authentic conversations. And also, it is also your life.
Yes.
And it is many other women's life.
Yes.
And we'll get into that in a minute. But I think I'll start here. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and I heard a dear friend of mine who's also been a guest on my show before, Danielle Bayard-Jackson, the author of Fighting for Friendships. Mm-hmm. She talked about the longest study by Harvard. And if I misquote it, I apologize. That basically happiness and joy is derived from, it is not money, it is 100% the quality of your friendships and relationships.
Yes.
And so when I think about relationships, it is far and few between that we find long-standing relationships these days. And you have been married 16 years.
16 years. Long, hard fought 16 beautiful years.
Yes.
We are not just roommates. We love each other. We are in a healthy relationship, because you have to preference that too.
Absolutely. You're not in a we stayed because of the kids.
No.
There are 3 kids, 3 beautiful children.
Yes.
Adult children, almost.
Yes, almost.
3 beautiful kids, you and your husband. And you guys, not only are you not roommates, you are business partners.
Yes.
You're friends, obviously.
Yes.
You're husband and wife.
Yes.
You do all of these things together. And now we're talking about the dynamic that society is completely pushing back on, which is women making more money in the container of the relationship.
Yes.
And so I want to start with this because I thought this was so interesting that you and I've had this conversation. Everyone listening knows a woman that may have admitted it or may have not, that has been in a relationship where she may have subconsciously or consciously felt herself had to take a step back, dim her light to be able to have more, to desire more, or to get her partner to choose more with her, to let him take a front seat. This is not new. We know this. We are told this day after day about submission and giving the man space to walk in his purpose and allowing him to lead and all of the things, and would love for all of that to be rightfully so.
Yes.
That's not always the case, especially not anymore when women are asked to work, provide, caretake, nurture, do all the things.
And even when we are asked to do all these things, when we're asked to like make money and we have been able to advance in our careers and our education, we still carry the majority of the responsibility when it comes to managing household.
There was a study on that in COVID around that was like women were doing way more, but we're still taking on the same exact load of caretaking, children, job, everything, housekeeping, all of the things.
Yeah.
So you and I were in this conversation and you explained to me, I used to be like that. And in my mind, knowing what you have accomplished, the real estate portfolio, the way that you show up for your clients, your community. Yeah. I was like, used to be like what? And you were like, oh, I used to, kind of bow down to, I didn't ever want my husband to feel like I thought I was more than him.
Yes.
You have to explain this dynamic, because what you also found out about your relationship and your husband,
Damn,
what he said.
Yes, we're gonna get to that. That's so good. So I have to even bring you back that we haven't even talked about this. I have to bring you back to, I feel like what helped to plant those seeds of conditioning for me, that I woke up and realized, wait, I'm actually shrinking. And I actually am not living to my fullest potential. And why am I doing that? Right. So
how did you know?
That's a good question. How did I know I was shrinking? I feel like I knew I was shrinking because I was holding back. There's something in you that feels like it could be subtle things, like when you do an interview and you want to make sure, I want to make sure that they know that
I didn't do this all on my own.
I didn't do this all on my own, that I am married. Even though, I was the one at 3:00 in the morning researching this, even though I'm the one who did the masterminds, even though I want them to not think of my husband didn't do it too, right?
Right.
When they know I'm married.
Yep.
Right? They know, like, if I'm on a call at 7 p.m. that my husband is helping with the kids. Like, they know, like, there are things that you don't necessarily have to say, but for some reason, I'm like, I have to, especially being a woman who's a Christian, which is a whole nother layer of it too that comes with it.
I was going to say, this sounds so PC. It sounds so as if you were like vice president of the United States. Like, I have to continue to give my husband credit.
Yes. And I think for me, some of those beginning seeds were, so context is that, so before we moved to Atlanta, I lived in Dallas, and actually 45 minutes north of Dallas in this small town called Denton, Texas, after I went to school. And was involved in like predominantly, non-minority ministry. And so whenever we got started, like building our family and all those things, my husband had a hard time finding a job. So he had job offers lined up and it did not work out, right? So we went from this place of he was going to be the breadwinner to like intentionally things like, it seems like overnight changed for us, and it was out of our control. Right. So that in itself is traumatic. And then now I'm like, oh, shoot. Okay. I went from maybe needing to work to, oh, you got to work right now, at least. And so started working, and some of the first type of like conversations that we had with people within the church who I'm sure loved us and was trying to protect us was, oh, you're actually in sin because, in sin, because, because your husband is not the primary breadwinner. Financial breadwinner. And you're actually in sin because that is not your dynamic, and that you actually need to just stop working and you just need to trust God that he's going to provide. And I'm like, no, you don't understand the context of, so it's just,
there's a few things there.
There's a few things that's involved, and I'm like, in my mind, again, I'm new to my faith. I don't know my Bible, like back and forth. In my mind, I'm like, well, I feel like if that's what the Lord wanted, he would have like provided that opportunity. I think he would have got that job. Like, right. In my mind,
if this was the dynamic would have been different.
Yes, right. And so I started off being this young mom and went from maybe needing to work to have to work at the time. And I had all this guilt because I was the only one, Jessica, the only one out of my like 10 or 15 friends that worked outside the home. The only one where, at the time, my husband was a stay-at-home dad with our son. We were the only ones. And so imagine being in this place and people telling you that your lifestyle is in sin when it's not even something that you asked for.
Right.
So I think that in those kind of small moments, definitely before I moved to Atlanta was a big part of like the transformation in the journey. And also I grew up with a mom and dad that both worked.
Right.
So I was like,
why is this weird?
Why is this weird? Because my mom and my dad both worked and it was fine.
Right.
So just a small, like little moments of just conditioning in that way that made me uncomfortable with being the primary financial provider in different seasons in our marriage.
I'm listening to you and you said the word guilt. And I'm thinking, I hear the word guilt, but I'm thinking, did you feel any shame, or did you deal with him with any, I don't know if the word shame or resistance, or, and I know your husband. So
Yes.
Because this dynamic is so tricky, because we already know as women that motherhood's very thankless.
Yes.
And men are very purpose driven.
Yes.
So are women.
Yes.
But so you take that from a man.
Yes.
And I always wonder what then happens. And obviously this wasn't intentional at the time. And we would hope everyone would be in gratitude that we can save ourselves from this situation.
Yes.
But I can only imagine what it does to the dynamic of two individuals surviving, and then things feel off balance, and one or the other feels purposeless. The other one feels like they're surviving. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So
I mean,
how did you guys survive that?
Whew. God's grace. I mean, for sure. God's grace for sure. But I do feel like a lot of it was, and we had kids. So it's like when you have small kids, your needs are like
out the window,
go to the wayside.
Yeah.
And whatever the needs is for that child is what's most important. So I do feel like we did a really good job, as much as we could, with the language that we had, to try to insulate what we feel like the values of our family were. Mm-hmm. Again, we didn't have a bunch of language for it. And a lot of times we did, as a family, feel misunderstood. But we definitely tried to like really just insulate, like we're just doing our best. We're just taking it season by season at a time. We had to work through a bunch of stuff. Like I had to work through, just different language around, making sure, like checking in with him, like how do you feel about it? It was very hard, for sure. And I do feel like because we had to just take care of the kids, a lot of it was like put to the wayside until later.
And then everything comes up.
Yes, and everything comes up. But what I would say, when we moved to Atlanta, and I remember I have a client who's actually a friend of mine who was really instrumental in reframing my vision, is when I came to Atlanta. Because again, everyone back in where I was, in my current context, outside of my family, but in my current context, my peers were, stay-at-home moms, and were, their husbands financially provided. So I moved to Atlanta, in this bustling city where you have so many different, people doing different things. Yep. I remember I met this woman. Her name was Asia. She had this big fro. She had, at the time, maybe 1 or 2 kids. Her husband also, she worked. Her husband worked. She really loved the Lord. She really loved her kids, and she was doing it all. And she was figuring it out. And it wasn't perfect, but she was figuring it out. And that really like gave me another lens of like a present version of, you know what? I think I can figure it out. And actually, I kind of like what I do. I actually don't want to stay at home. I actually am really good at what I do. And I kind of like this. And I remember I had a client at the bank, and, I make fast friends with people. I really I don't know, somehow I started telling all this woman my business. And I was telling her how, my kids were young and I felt bad because I couldn't be there for them all the time. And she was like, girl, you're doing a good job. I was like, what you mean? And she said, you're doing a good job. You're young and you're building your career now while your kids are young. So when they get older, that's when they really need you the most. That's when they need you. Like she said, somebody else can change their diaper and can feed them. They're not going to remember that anyways. But when they really need you, when they need you to think through real life decisions, you're going to be at a place in your career where you have flexibility. You put in the work, the grunt work, and you're going to be able to be there for them in a way that if you had delayed that process, that you're going to feel guilty later when they need you the most. He's like, but you're going to be present. And that was a different perspective that I had not heard, that she probably doesn't even remember that she said to me. That was truly life-changing. And I think that was one of the first, seeds of just non-shrinking or walking into myself, that almost gave me permission to embrace this season that I was in, instead of trying to wish it away.
Okay. this is for the women listening, because I think what you just talked about, grazed over, is so important,
Mm-hmm.
is that we started this conversation with you had to. You had to do it.
Yes.
Now we're transitioning to, it sounds like, and this
get
is
to.
this is the way I was explaining it, is I feel like we choose every day as women to put the backpack on.
Yes.
I'll take your bricks and I'll take your bricks and I'll take your bricks and I'll put them in my backpack, zip it up, pull it
Yes.
tight, and I'll carry it. I got it. And actually, in fact, don't help me because it's just more convenient for me to do it.
Yes.
And in fact, most times I want to do it. And I think there's a different thought process for women to consider, that there are many of us that either we can do it easily or we truly want to do it,
Mm-hmm.
versus the pressure that comes with a lot of women feeling like they have to do it. We hear this all the
Yes.
time where women are like, where's my husband? I'm ready to submit. I don't want to
Yes.
work this hard.
Yes.
You know,
Give me a soft life.
give me a soft life.
Yes.
And here you are, fast forward, and you're like, I don't have to do it, but I want to.
Yes.
And I'm going to create this soft life, and I
Yes.
want this. And so what was the thought process that led you to go like, no, I want to be this in our family.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with this. And I'm never going to come back and shame my husband for not being it.
Right.
I'm going to carry that weight.
Right.
Because I can and I will.
Yes. Yes. And I think that for us, we ended up pursuing particular careers that, financially are just different.
Mhm.
Right. So I ended up going into finance industry, then from there into real estate, and it happened to be a very lucrative career. He loves kids. He loves like being that mentor that he wished he had had. He loves like
social services does not pay well.
Yes, no, nonprofit.
Very
work
needed, but it does not pay well.
Pay well. It should, but
Right.
it does not. Right. And so I think one of the first things that I had to realize, one, I had to like shake up society's expectations, or even like shake not only society's expectation of like what a mom, should do, what a dad should do, but also as women, we want somebody to take care of us. Maybe that is the case for some people, but I've honestly have always been like the person who like makes ish happen. Like, like I have always been like a go-getter, and I have big dreams, and whether there's someone financially taking care of me or not, I want to be able to pursue my dreams. And so I had to like let go of this societal idea of what, how a woman should be, how her mom should be. And I had to begin asking God to help me to form my own identity based on like who God wanted me to be, not who everybody thought I should be.
Oof.
And so that was like one of the like most important parts. And even what I thought society thought that my husband should be, I had to let that go too.
Because then people will come in and go, well, if you're moving this fast and you're doing so well, don't you want someone to match that?
Yes.
Don't you need somebody to take over the world with? Don't you need someone to match that energy?
I've really wrestled with that in counseling. Like, do I actually want this like two high income achiever like couples? Like, do I want that? And do I realize what comes with that? And do I want that? Like, I have literally wrestled.
And
through
am
that.
I down the line going to hold that person accountable for not stepping into that role?
Yes.
Am I banking on potential, or can I be totally okay with what I have?
Yes.
Moving forward.
Right.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. And so it just has required a lot of conversations, like honest conversations with myself, honest conversation with like the life that I want, that I desire, who I feel like God has made me to be. And then also my husband, like his desires, what he wants out of his dreams and things like that. And so we, over time, began to let go of like society's like what they would identify us to be, and began forming our own family. And we started realizing like, hey, we actually really like this. I like, us together in this way. I like, having the ability to do this with the kids and do all those things. And so I feel like that came over time. And so one of the things recently, I realized I was starting again to like really having a hard time, especially now, being in this place where I've accepted I've accepted like the calling that God's given me to like have this platform because I know that it's going to inspire so many others. I know that's going to open up doors for others. And that comes with having this platform and with exposure and self-promotion.
Yes.
So self-promotion was something that I was really, really struggling with maybe just a couple of years ago. And I was having a conversation with some friends who also know my husband. And I was like, okay, if I can be honest, let me tell you how I feel. And I was like, I'm just having a hard time with like really like self-promoting myself and talking about myself because I don't want people to think that like, I don't want people to like put my husband down or whatever. And then she was like, well, I know LB and I don't think he wants your life. And I was like, wait, what? And she was like, it's almost like you are forming what success looks like for him with your life. And then she was like, do you know if that is his definition of success? And I was like, that's a good question. I'm going to ask him. And then, so I went home and I was like, this is how I feel about self-promoting myself in this way. And I don't want to step on your toes in this way. You have never, ever like made me feel that way or ever been like, oh, I don't like when you've never said that before, but I just don't want to like offend you in that way. And he was like, girl, I don't want your podcast. I don't want your life. I don't want your speaking. I don't want any of that. Like,
I want none of that.
I don't want none of that. I don't want your having to be on IG. He's like, I don't want your emails that you be sending at 10 o'clock at night. He's like, I don't want none of that. He's like, success for me looks like this and this way. It looks for, and he described his definition. I was like, oh my gosh, this whole time I was forming this story in my mind of what you wanted and what success looked like for you. And it wasn't even true. You don't even want that. And so that really gave me like the personal freedom to like, just be whoever I wanted to be and not like feel like I have to like shrink back because me being this big person for whatever reason makes somebody feel like my husband isn't as amazing and king as he is, which he is, So, okay, guys, did you hear the news? I am giving away a fully turnkey house. Yes, you heard that correct. I am giving away a fully renovated house at the Owning It and Living It experience. You gotta be in the room though to win the house. It is November 1st through 3rd at the Intercontinental Hotel in Buckhead. Go to experience.owningitandlivingit.com to grab your ticket today before the prices go up. I'll see you in November. That was a whole lot.
No, this is so good because I'm like, the whole time I'm listening to this, I'm thinking, okay, what this really is, it's kind of like if fate and alignment would have it, you two have known this from the start.
Yeah.
The only variable was external opinions.
Yes.
So like, this has been very clear.
Yes.
Your doubt came from other people.
Yes. Yes.
Church, sin,
yes.
The Bible,
yes.
the folks you were surrounded by,
yes.
the small town you were raised in. Like,
yes.
Is this taking away from my marriage? Am I making my husband look bad?
Right.
Am I taking away from the natural design or dynamic that exists in a container of a relationship?
Right.
But it sounds like from the very start, this has been crystal clear for the both of you.
I know.
It just wasn't to the external world.
No.
And it was decades of deciding, I'm going to let that get out of the way.
Yes. Yes. And my husband
we're gonna do
very
us.
much. Yes. And he's very much the leader in our home. Like very much. And I'm happy.
Which is so doable.
For him to be the leader.
Please. Please be the leader.
Please. Okay.
I do not manhandle you because I make more money.
No.
I, in fact, would love you to manhandle all of this.
Yes. Yes. He is not a pushover man. Okay.
Right.
Like, because sometimes you may see that dynamic, and if that works for someone, it's great.
Right.
But that doesn't work for me, and he's not that person.
Right.
So, like, yeah. So, I would say for sure that's been great.
This is so good. Because to me, now I'm listening, I'm like, this is exactly how it should be.
Yes.
This is really what it should be, is that, which ties into, because this is what I imagine. I envision like you get to go out into the world and be this person, which we all know for watching, like this is very authentically who Erika is, but there is a role that comes with this.
Yes.
Like I have to show up sometimes when I don't want to show up.
Yeah.
I got to go be out in the world and speak. I got to go motivate people sometimes when I'm not motivated.
Yeah.
I have to go be this person. And then I get to come home to my very happy family life and my
Yeah.
husband who's doing his own thing that I can step out of my world and step into his world.
Yes.
And I don't really have to, he doesn't care about this identity
No.
at all.
No.
He's like, come home. And
He'd be like,
zip it up.
what's happening again? Like, he don't be, I'll be like, can you ask me about?
Yes.
Because he is like, I love this for you. I support you. Like, he is here. It's there. It's amazing. But, on the weekends, we have fun. Like, we're not talking about.
Y'all travel, do all the things. So then this poses the question of, okay, so you remove external opinions.
Mhm.
You shake the doubt, fear, and question that comes with your abnormal by design relationship, so we call it.
Yeah.
But how do you deal with, and everyone has imbalances,
Yeah.
but how do you deal with the imbalances of, and I'm going to say this from my perspective,
Mhm.
I don't know if you have dealt with this. I don't know, my scale's like either 0 or 10.
Yeah.
So like if I get in a space where I get soft and distracted and I travel some and I'm like playful, oh, the feminine is roaring.
Yes.
I'm like, woo, life is good.
Yes.
And then I look up and I'm like, oh yeah, my business. Oh shit. And I get like airy and loving life. And then I'm like, oh my God. And then when I get back into my business, I mean, I always picture it as like a slap on the wrist. Like whoever is present in my life, I'm like, not right now. No, stop. Like I'm super tight and masculine and wound up.
Yes.
And so I've always thought like, truthfully, will I make it in a marriage? Because there's going to be times where I'm going to struggle so much.
Right.
I can't even be present with myself. How can I be present with you?
That's
and
good.
so how do you come home sometimes or how do you acknowledge in moments? Or is it just the communication style of like, oh yeah, I'm lacking presence.
Oh, no,
I'm lacking showing up for you.
That's really good. Oh my gosh, so many. I'm sitting there listening to you and I'm like going through different scenarios.
Where you have done that?
Yes. And one, being married to an entrepreneur, whether you're a man or a woman, is hard.
Yes.
Because we're crazy. Like me and my mentor talk about it all the time. Like we are from a different breed, true entrepreneurs, not just people who started a business in 2020. True entrepreneurs who are sticking digging deep are different, right? And that's because truly only 10% of like human race are really wired to be like visionary entrepreneurs in that way. And so all that to say, so it does require a lot of grace. It requires a lot of communication. Like we have over 16 years of being married now. One, we know each other, we've learned each other, and we're constantly growing too. Like I'm constantly changing. I am not the same person. I don't want to be the same person as I was last year. I want to change, and he does too. We're constantly changing. But with that, we've like developed a bunch of tools, like a toolkit that we like pull from, as season goes. So we have things, we build things into our day-to-day lives that help us to be able to get both what we need. One, we learned that in counseling because neither one of us grew up seeing a really healthy relationship that we wanted to emulate. So we had to, not only did we have to like recognize our trauma, we've had to heal our trauma, and we've had to create new tools. Okay. So that's like the foundation of that. And so
there's the last 16 years.
Yes. And then secondly, we've had to learn how to embrace and accept each other for who we are. So I am a very like planned, organized person. There's no way I would be able to do half the things I would if I wasn't, right?
Right.
And so like my calendar is planned out for the rest of the year.
We just finished planning you and I have planned until July 2025.
Yes. Okay.
I was like, let me get this over to you now so you know what the entire next year looks like.
That would stress my husband the
F out. Get this away.
Like he struggles with planning until August. Like, and it's like, that's 2 months from right? So, and then like, I'm very much calendar person. He's like, oh, we'll see what happens. And so for some people, that could be deal breakers. That could be like annoying, but we've learned to be able to like actually see the strengths and the gifts of one another in that. And then to accept each other for who they are. And then two, we have learned that we have, like, for me, I have to, because I'm a very much plan regimented person when it comes to my day-to-day running a business, homeschooling the kids, being a wife. I need to make sure, like, I think about my husband within my series of events, my scope of work for it's not really work, my scope of the day or the week, right? So before I do all the things, before I make all the plans, I say, hey, like, how do you feel about a date this week? Or like, we have our morning walks, so we work out together. Like, I make sure that is a priority and that's considered first, so that he doesn't feel like all these things come before him. So he knows, like, I am. Erika still considers me too, like, in her day of things to do.
Does he ever look at you and say something like, "Don't do that to me"? That thing you do for your clients and everything, and
we do that to each other.
I'm not your project manager.
Yes,
don't do that to me.
We both have this funny thing where we say, like, I'm not your assistant.
Yeah,
I have an assistant. That's what I tell him. He'll be like, "Can you do this?" I'm like, I am your helper, but I'm not your assistant.
Oh, have you ever told him to call your assistant?
Yeah. He has her numbers.
Don't ask me that. You can call my assistant.
Yes, please call your assistant. And vice versa. I'm like, hey, I'm not your assistant. I'm happy to help, but this is not the way I help. Or in the way, like, again, because a lot of times as entrepreneurs, some of us can have tunnel vision. And this is one of the things that he's had to, like, learn about me, in the same way that I've had to, like, learn things about him. He's had to learn that if he wants me to do something, it can be unfair to just expect me to stop everything I'm doing right now to do what I'm actually do. Like one way that he could also, like, consider me is, like, saying, like, okay, we have this weekly meeting where we're going to walk, we check in on our relationship, and we say how we're doing and all those kind of things. But then we also have, like, an agenda that he puts together, and that if there are things that he wants to talk to me about, like from a marriage or business standpoint, that he puts on that agenda and we talk about. And that's at the top of the week before everything. And so he recognizes that if I'm in the middle of, like, creating some campaign or helping a client solve a problem or something like that, that my brain literally has a hard time stopping and just pivoting. But versus him just can, like, okay, let me put that on that agenda, because I know we're going to meet. I know we're going to talk. I know I'm going to have her undivided attention, and we'll be able to work through whatever it is we need to work through. And we have fun.
This is good.
I don't see enough couples having fun. We have fun. We have things that we do together, and we have fun. We have other entrepreneur friends.
Yes.
That we go and we, like, about to have fun.
Y'all have couple friends.
We do.
I mean, like, I've never seen so many couple friends.
We have couple friends. We have couple best friends. I'm like, Courtney, I need you to call your boy. And then he's like, Chassie, I need you to talk to your girl. And it works out really well. And so, so we have fun. And, like, whenever I'm off.
Yeah.
And I think
do you
that's
feel like he grounds
really
you?
Important. Oh, yeah. My husband has, like, I don't think I would be where I am, like, today if it wasn't for, like, my husband's influence in my life. Like, I grew up, like, no new friends, Erika. Like, I was, like, closed off and just, like, angry for some reason. My husband has helped me to see the value in, like, meeting new people, being open to new experiences. He has really ministered to me in that way. And, like, God's used him to help me to see the joys out of life. Because if not, I would just work.
Yes.
I would just work. And then what, what is the point in all of it? Like, if at the end of the day, you don't have, like, relationships of like we started off, like, people who you truly love to experience life with. And so, he for sure, like, helps ground me in lots of ways.
Okay. How do you keep your ego out of it? And I ask that because I feel like we've forever known men with money. Yeah. Like, men have money, and therefore there's a time every woman has experienced this somewhere where a man's like, hey, I don't have to deal with this. Yes. Like, there's more of you. I can just go find another one. Like, yes. And many, many times that comes from the decision that is, like, I am the provider. Yeah. So you can get what you need elsewhere, and I can get whatever I need. Yes. I always say that I think society was not ready for women to have options, because when women have money, they have options.
Yes.
So as a married and happy woman,
Yeah.
how do you keep your ego out of it of sometimes where it's like, because we can play victim very well.
Yes.
So we can go, you don't know how much work I do.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know how hard I work.
Mm-hmm.
You have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you keep your ego out of it? Of like, I don't have to do this.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I've said that.
I check myself.
I'm just gonna be honest. Sometimes I'll be like, you have no idea. You know, like, yes, I definitely have said that. And I also want to like give the context of like, yes, we are in a healthy, happy place today, but we have been through a lot of really, really hard things where I didn't know if we were gonna make it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we've been through conversations, decisions like, do we want to still do this? Right. And the difference is when you are a woman who can financially provide for yourself and your family, because a lot of times, especially in the past, women they haven't had to stay, but they have chosen to stay because of financial reasons.
Correct.
So when financial reasons aren't on the table and you are a catch, I remind my husband of all the time, I'm a catch. So I'm a catch.
Try me if you want to.
Try me. I'm a catch. I have options, right? So the ego does a little bit, but I do, in those situations where that has been like, do we want to keep doing this, kind of thing, because the money is staying is not the option. And it's also not necessarily the kids. It's really, I feel like for me, that's when looking at the true like authenticity of the relationship is really important. So like pushing past the ego, one to say like, okay, do I really feel like this is two people who are worth the fight, who both want and desire to grow and improve our relationship? Because you can't do it by yourself.
Right.
There has to be two people who are willing to do the work.
Correct.
Okay. And you can't just say you're going to do the work. You have to like your actions
do the work.
Have to like show that you're willing to do the work. Right. So if you have two people that are willing to do the work and you're willing to stick and do the work with them, and it's a person that you love and you want to grow with, then I feel like for me, it's even more authentic to say I'm going to stay because I necessarily have to. And that, that was my situation. It was our situation. And I'm really happy that we worked through various things, and that who knows the next, set of things we have to deal with, because there's so many things in life that, again, you don't know what's going to happen. But, one of the things that I'm grateful for, like our relationship, is that we both are people who grow, like we wake up every single day and we strive to like be better people every single day. And that has given me like comfort to know like, okay, we're choosing to like work through the things that we're working through. And I'm not just, married to no like scrub. I was trying to find the best verse in my mind. What I really wanted to say wasn't appropriate for this YouTube, but so that's the best I can come up with.
So you'll denounce yourself from this throne when I say it, but I think what is inevitable here is that you could and should have a perspective on the success of staying married.
Yes.
Because even though you are not a relationship expert, you have maintained a relationship, which is much easier said than done.
Very much so.
A 16-year marriage. And so what is the thing that when you're listening to other women, younger women talk about their potential marriage or their current marriage that is laughable to you, where you're like, if you only knew?
Oh, girl. I don't know, just about like the whole, he doesn't make me happy. Or for people who aren't married, let's talk about that first.
Speak directly to me.
Okay. For people who are not married and they get stuck on not dating people because of like their height or some type of like their income, some type of physical appearance, I'd be like, girl, please talk to me about how are you as a dad? How do you respect women? Oof. How do you, are you a kind person? Like, what do you believe? Like to me,
these are all the things that are going to matter. Because all those things you worried about minus height, because we stopped growing at a certain age, are going to change.
Yes. They are going to change. And so when it comes down to it and you have a child with this person and you are trying to help raise, like I'm so grateful, like so oftentimes, especially seeing my husband be a dad, I am so grateful for the person that I married, because like I can say something to my sons and it go over them. And then their daddy come and say something to them in another way, and they're just like, like, I'm like, well, goddamn.
Guess I can't be good at everything.
I just said the same thing. But it's just like, I'm just so grateful because of the type of father he is, and because he desires to have a relationship with his kids,
Yeah.
And
you
so
don't
those
have to
are
coach or beg or
yes, those are the things that matter, not, necessarily all the, external things. So that's for like people who are not married. And for the people who are in relationships and they're like trying to figure out, like, should I do this? Should I stay married? Or maybe they are married and they're thinking about like not being married anymore. And if they're like, because I'm not happy, emotions are fleeting. Like emotions are truly fleeting. Like we were just talking about last week, I was on my cycle. I thought the world was ending. And I was trying to tell myself that it wasn't, but it just felt like it was.
And this and I can't get this feeling to go away.
Yes. And if I make a decision out of that emotion,
the answer is take a nap.
Yes, just go to sleep. Like, just eat something and go to sleep. Okay? Like the whole scripture about can't have an argument when the sun goes down, whatever it is, I don't think you're taking it out of context. Sometimes I need to go to sleep and you need to go to sleep before we have this conversation.
Correct.
That's real
Let's
life.
hit a refresher. We're both triggered.
Yes.
This is not about sitting with it. We're exhausted. All the external factors are triggering.
Yes.
We have overtalked it, overthunk it. We're hungry.
Yes.
We're aggravated. We're annoyed, and we're overspent today.
Yes.
Give it a rest.
Give it a rest. Give it a rest. So like just some of the like kind of very like, I don't know, basic, it can feel it can sound shallow to me. And I'm not talking about like, really like your person's not respecting you, they're abusing you, they're cheating. I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about the other things like that. I feel like things you can work through. And if that person is willing to do the work, like get counseling.
I think what you're saying is so critical, because I think all we're hearing right now online is shallow.
Yes.
And so I'm like, and it's coming from the mouths of single people.
Yes.
That are very opinionated. And
Yeah.
I'm listening and I'm like, here's success.
Yeah.
Right here. And I love that. Please don't take this out of context, but I love that because I've listened to one of your friends on an interview, Lecrae, about his marriage.
Yeah.
And I love when you listen to people like this and nowhere in it are they like, well, it's just because we've just loved each other from the start.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're just so compatible and like, I'm just never leaving.
That's not going to keep you married necessarily when times get hard.
What do they say? 7 years is when most people will get divorced.
Yes.
And then it's like if you can make it after 10,
yes,
it's done. It's just a decision that you just make every day.
Right. Right. It is a commitment for
Yes.
sure. It is a commitment. Yeah. And and I'm really happy that I made the commitment that I made with who I made it with, because if I think about some of them other options that I had, that I was, that's one of the things, like,
ghetto out here.
God is real.
Yeah.
Because
He knew.
if I had
married what I've been through.
I would have been divorced. I had multiple kids, multiple baby dads. There's nothing wrong with that. But
Right.
that would have been a different story for me. So all that to say.
Okay, last one for the woman, because this is a conversation that goes on inside my group chat.
Yeah.
Like I said to you what I said, because I have heard stuff like this, that is like, well, don't you want a man that you're equal? Don't
Yeah.
you want a man that makes as much money as you? Don't you want a man that can teach you something? Don't you want to,
Yeah.
all of these things?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is the problem. That's
Yes.
the problem.
Well, also, and then that basically, when you say that, that means that really ties your value to your income. And I just feel like people are so much more. Like, I'm so much more than how much money I make. And
Correct.
this is actually why I don't necessarily share like how much money I make every year, is because I don't want you or myself confusing my value with how much money I make. Because I may make $1 million this year, and next year I may not want to work.
And I need you to like me the same both of those years.
Exactly. And so in the same way, like people, men are they can bring so much more to the table than just how much money they make. And so, you know, I think about like I was saying, like my husband's added so many different amazing qualities and joys to my life. And he actually does work and make money too. So like, can we not limit people to their income? Because their income is not determined. Their value is not determined by their income.
I think I got to end it here. When I just heard you say that, what I heard, the through line in that was, what we want from men is what we need to give them. Because what we want from men is to see that we're so much more than a body and a number and a mother, and we're more. Look at us, we're capable of so much more.
Yes.
And we want men to see that.
Yes.
And we really want them to see like, oh, I'm so valuable, look at all these things I can do.
Yes.
But what men really want from us is like, I'm so much more than a provider.
Yes.
I'm so much more.
Yes.
And if you could see me, if you could see past a dollar amount in me, I could be a great father. I could be an incredible friend. I could be a great partner.
A nice
I could
partner,
be someone fun to do spontaneous things with that really brings me joy and happiness.
Yes.
I could be your better half, which literally has nothing to do with the way that I provide.
Yes.
We literally we need to give the thing that we want.
Yes.
Ladies, we need to give the thing that we want.
That's it. That's it. So, mic drop. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm like, where do we go? How do people find you?
At Jessica Hurley _ or you can check out my show, Rich in Real Life, on all podcasting platforms, as well as EPYC.co, EPYC, which is Evolve Past Your Consciousness Media, EPYC.co for all of the incredible creators, thought leaders, experts, just bomb folks that we get to produce and work with and collaborate with, like Erika.
Yes.
So,
thanks for having me. You're so good.